All right, we're live.
No one burped. Very upset.
I do it, but I guess I'm kind of the moderator.
There it is.
Kind of the moderator tonight. So,
Right.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Running Out the Clock. Week 8 was super great, and that's where we are. We are here to discuss all the happenings of the week that was and the week to come on your favorite terrible podcast, Running Out the Clock. Our fearless leader, Joseph, had some work obligations tonight because he works at an institution that routinely violates the Sabbath, and we have marked that down as a sin, and we'll see him next week. So I'm gonna run the show tonight. So I'm sorry for anybody who actually listens because I typically do a bad job. But I'm Chandler. We've got Keith. We've got Ro. What's up, guys?
Hey.
A little yawn.
We're recording a good bit later than we normally do. So who knows what's going to happen? You know, like we'll just see. You know, we're just here for the ride. It's fun. Life is a highway. It's about the journey. Whatever. I'm gonna shut up now. So as we typically begin our show with each week, we're going to talk about the Knowles, and I'm going to make this segment really short. They beat Wake Forest. Who cares?
I picked Wake Forest too,
and everyone was happy. Yay!
Hey, let's talk about who deserves some credit this week that probably isn't getting any. This was so inside the SEC, this was a pretty uneventful week. There wasn't anything, last week was kind of crazy with a lot of big name SEC teams losing and crazy things happening. But this week, most of the excitement happened outside of the SEC. So, Keith, I'll kick it to you first. Is there anybody that you can think of that deserves credit that's not getting any?
Mostly because this game was probably on nobody's radar. I'm going to give credit to just Arkansas as a team for doing a really good job of kind of ignoring a lot of the injuries that they had, and putting up a few points and shutting out Tulsa in a rough week for them. So props to them.
Yeah, and that's potentially huge for Arkansas because they had Kelly Bryant, the former Clemson quarterback, on campus for an official visit. So could potentially be a really big week for them. Ro, what about you? Who deserves credit that's not getting any?
I'm gonna say probably Ed Orgeron. I mean, he's a good coach, and I don't think he gets, at least at the beginning of the season, he didn't get a lot of credit. But now, they're 6-1 now, and shocker by my standards, because I think we all agreed that they were going to underachieve this year, and they have certainly blown those allegations out of the water. So Ed Orgeron being a good coach, congrats to him. I don't think anybody's given him enough credit. Yeah,
that's probably. I mean, LSU without a doubt has been the story of the SEC season so far because. I think, even listening to national people talk, like it seemed like they were really in a lot of trouble because their schedule was incredibly difficult, and yet here they are at 6-1 going into their bye week before Alabama, ranked in the top 5. And look, we'll talk about this more later. Let's be straight; they're going to lose that Alabama game by 40 points, but just to kind of be at the point where they are, pretty impressive. I'm going to give a shout out to Brandon, Mississippi's own Gardner Minshew, the starting quarterback for the Washington State Cougars.
Dude, that guy's so good.
And y'all, what a crazy story that this weekend was for Washington State, because like the tradition at College Game Day has been the Washington State flag. I think at like every episode they've ever hosted, somebody's been waving Old Crimson in the background, and they their fans go out of their way to coordinate who's going to fly in and how it's going to show up. I've actually got some friends.
Straight episodes or whatever.
Do what?
It's been like 1,000 straight episodes or whatever. Like, it's crazy.
And like I've got some friends that flew it. A friend who graduated from Washington State who flew the flag at the Army Navy game one time, and it's just this cool tradition that always goes. And so finally, game day is in is it Pullman, Washington? Is that where Washington State is?
Washington State City, yes.
I think it's in. I know you have that. That's incorrect. It's Bill Pullman.
Yes. It was a Bill Pullman house. But no. So they finally host game day, and they're playing Oregon, and it's a huge game, and they absolutely show out on Saturday night. That really probably would have been the story of college football if not for what happened in West Lafayette, Indiana, boiler up. But yeah, big shout out to Gardner Minshew. Had a huge game. I don't have his stats right in front of me, but there's like 300 yards, 4 touchdowns, and Washington State. Washington State beat Oregon. And last night, Saturday night was last night. Whatever. Shut up. Saturday night was crazy. Saturday night was in so many ways what I think we love about college football. There were so many big upsets, big games, and things. Unfortunately, they all happened outside the SEC because the SEC is ruining all the joy of college football.
LSU beating Mississippi State at Death Valley, huge upset.
Huge upset.
So, it certainly upset some people.
that much is true. So just to run you down, if you don't have access to the internet, which you wouldn't be listening to this podcast anyway if you didn't, but just to run you down on what happened Saturday, Alabama broke out the victory cigars after a 58-21 victory over Tennessee. The LSU Tigers stretched it out to 7-1 against the Mississippi State Bulldogs, 19-3. Kentucky topped Vanderbilt 14-7. Kentucky being 6-1 in the SEC, which is pretty impressive. Arkansas getting the big win over Tulsa, 23-0. Auburn fully and thoroughly embarrassing Ole Miss, 31-16, and then Missouri beating Memphis, 65-33.
Yeah, that was.
We were 2 points away from 100 points in that game.
I did not see that coming.
Kind of wish we'd have gotten to the 100. So we're not going to spend a ton of time talking about these games. But a couple of things to highlight. I think specifically just to kind of talk about Ole Miss and Auburn, and then Mississippi State and LSU. And Ole Miss and Auburn is it's not really a game that matters a whole lot in the SEC race. Obviously, Ole Miss is not bowl eligible, and Auburn is, they're all but they're eliminated from the SEC title hunt, but. I think the frustrating thing for Ole Miss fans, and if you were paying attention or whatever, I think the frustrating thing for Ole Miss fans is that you really thought that this could be a game that you could win. You thought that this, with Auburn being in kind of disarray and meltdown mode that they're in, you thought, hey, maybe this is something that we can get done. And for as much maligned as they've been, the Ole Miss defense played pretty well in the first half, but the offense really just came up short the whole game. They ran something like 86 plays and only scored 16 points. So that's really bad. And I think
with 7 of them coming with 2 minutes left in the game.
Yeah, garbage time touchdown at the end. So I think the biggest takeaway from that game, and I'll talk about this more in I've got some thoughts tomorrow. But I think the biggest takeaway from that game is, this was a game you thought you could get. I think this is a game you reasonably thought you could get, and the offense is just kind of sputtering, and you just don't really see kind of any improvements or anything like that. So, Keith, what'd you see there with Ole Miss and Auburn?
Yeah. It was just one of those things where Auburn looked like a methodical team and just took care of business when they needed to, and every time Ole Miss had a chance to make a play to kind of close the gap a little bit, they just couldn't. I think that's kind of the story of the game. Auburn's run game came alive, and I think that we all knew that was going to happen. But Jordan Tamu had a good statistical day, but again, it just seemed like whenever Ole Miss needed that play, it didn't happen until the end of the game when Auburn stopped caring.
Yeah, and Ro, we typically do this for just games anyway, but I'll let you kind of be the voice of authority on this one. Does this tell you more about Ole Miss, or does this tell you more about Auburn?
A little bit more about Auburn, I think. I think we kind of know who Ole Miss is, which is a team lacking a defense. I mean, to Ole Miss's credit, though, I watched the first half at least, or right into the third quarter when Auburn went on like a 23 or 21-3 score or something like that. And
I ran some numbers in the middle of that run, and typically that's not good, is what the numbers indicate.
Yeah, typically you're on the losing side if you are at the 3 and they're the 21. But no, they had they were still in the game for the most part at halftime. Like, they still had a shot to win, but after that third quarter, it was like, man, that AJ Brown touchdown catch just did nothing whatsoever. Didn't even register. It was too late, too little, too late. And that's why I say it kind of tells us a little bit more about Auburn. They came off of a disappointing loss last week against State, and looking like they're on the ropes. Possibly Auburn taking a back seat. I think it tells us a little bit more about them. I also think, in terms of like going back to us predicting Auburn and LSU at the beginning of the season, we got it right except for the wrong teams. Like, very much so. Like, LSU is clearly the second best team in the SEC West, and Auburn is 5th, 4th, maybe 6th, somewhere in there. They're just kind of run of the mill.
Yeah, I think they're probably in that territory to finish 5th. I think is probably where they'll be.
Which was not what anybody expected at the beginning of the season. So that's why I say a game like this tells us more about Auburn.
Yeah, I mean, I think it definitely showed you that in a game that they could have lost, in a game that they could have really probably realistically just rolled over and quit and just kind of packed it in. They didn't. And that always, it's always hard to know exactly what that counts for, but it counts for, it definitely counts for something, so just to see them kind of play well and, get a little bit of a breather for the sake of Gus Malzahn and his job and going into a bye week, which they desperately need.
Yeah, he looked really relieved after the game.
Because he didn't get fired.
Right.
Yeah.
Just the fact that they were playing a team that they should have beaten, and then they actually won that game.
Yeah, because I think the thing that you can't undersell for Auburn is how bad the optics of a loss to Ole Miss would have been, because you've already lost to LSU, which is disappointing. You've already lost to Mississippi State, which I think that Mississippi State was better than Auburn, but there's still like the Auburn fan mentality that's a disappointing loss,
right?
And then to turn around and to also lose to Ole Miss, so really basically to get swept by the state of Mississippi, and then also have Ole Miss, who's a team on probation, a team that you just took behind the woodshed last year, and who's been so bad to lose that game. I think that would have been the straw that broke the camel's back. So,
I mean, on top of that, let's not forget that Auburn went on the road and lost to Tennessee.
Oh yeah, that also happened.
So if you lose to Tennessee and turn around and lose to Ole Miss, they not only leave Gus Malzahn at the bus stop, they actually pack him up in a box and put him in that Indiana Jones warehouse.
Yeah. Yeah, so Gus is just there hanging out with the lost gold of the city of El Dorado or something.
Never to be heard from again.
Until Indiana Jones comes back from the Kingdom of the Crystal Skulls.
Yeah.
Underrated movie. Right. Underrated movie.
Terrible movie.
it was real bad. Real bad. Anyway, yeah, so it just kind of leaves some things still unsettled for Auburn, and I guess unsettled is better than getting your coach fired. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Next up, we've got Mississippi State at LSU. This game, so Keith and I talked about this game a little bit before it started, and I was genuinely pretty conflicted. I know you and Joseph felt pretty confident going into the game, and I don't think you were wrong for that. But I think that looking at it, I didn't know. I had a hard time getting a read on it. If State had finally bounced back after that Auburn win, or if they were just walking into one of those kind of classic Baton Rouge Saturday night buzzsaws, and it definitely appeared that it was the Saturday night buzzsaw that LSU did enough on offense to just kind of keep the ball away from State and to just get some points however you could. And their defense was just absolutely insane.
It's hard to win a game when you get picked 4 times.
There's just you can't win.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So Keith, I'll just kind of open it up to you to talk about that game a little bit because I'm not even really sure. I'm not even really sure what I think what even happened.
Well, the answer to that question is basically nothing outside of the picks. Fitzgerald had 60 yards passing, which again, if you get out of Excel and you crunch the numbers and put it into like your accounting software, you just get a bunch of exclamation points and question marks.
I actually had a running up the clock interns run the numbers on that, and they told me it was bad.
Yeah, but like here's the thing though, is like Joe Burrow wasn't any better. He had 130 yards and 1 pick. Like State had 200 yards rushing, and that was mostly Fitzgerald. LSU had 110. Look, like LSU came out of the game with not even 250 total yards of offense. State on the other side had I think 260. So like not exactly an offensive showcase. So it came down to the defenses, and unfortunately for State fans, LSU's defense performed slightly better just by virtue of getting 4 interceptions. And one of those was the first pass play of the game, and set up an LSU touchdown. So that kind of set the tone for the whole game. And State never really recovered from that. Like I think their next drive or the one after that, they had I think it was the next drive. Like it looked like State had an answer, and Fitzgerald busted that 40-yard run, and then Kylan Hill had an 18-yard run right after that. So it looked like State was going to commit to the run game, and that LSU might not be able to stop it. And then they kind of hit a wall, kicked the field goal, and then it was all LSU after that. And so the whole mantra of LSU's defense has to be amazing, and they have the potential to be every game, and they were really good, but that the LSU offense has to kind of stay out of its own way, which they didn't. Joe Burrow threw a pick, and they just weren't very effective on offense, but their defense bailed them out in a big way and got them a tough win.
Yeah, and it was one of those games that it seemed like it was so hard to read, because it felt like on the one hand a dominant performance by LSU, but on the other hand you felt the whole time like if Mississippi State could just break one play, if they could just break off that one long run, or that one, break that one tackle on a pass play and get that touchdown, then.
Or have that play that State seems to have every week where Fitz hits a 50-yard bomb, and maybe that turns it around, but it just nothing ever broke their way.
Yeah. So Ro, I'm going to pose this question to you, and I'm going to pose it to you not in a sense of hey, let's rip on a college kid, because that's not what this is about. But
I'm all for ripping on college kids though, bro. Hit me up, dude.
But no, I mean honestly, there's been a lot of discussion and debate about Nick Fitzgerald. He's over halfway through his senior year, so we can kind of start to talk about legacy and who he is and those kinds of things. And so as a fan, as somebody who's watched the team week to week and watched him play. I mean, who is Nick Fitzgerald? Like what? Like when he hangs it up after the Egg Bowl or the bowl game this season, what's kind of his lasting legacy?
Well, currently as it stands right now, from most of every State fan that I talked to, is that he's just a running quarterback, and that reflects in the scheme that Dan Mullen had for him, and now even this year with Joe Moorhead. Because I don't know what the deal is, man, with the throws. I mean, I watched the game. Some of it is the receiver's fault. That's for sure. Some of it's the offensive line's poor play. That's for sure. But at the end of the day, like some of the throws that Nick tries to do, he just tries to force too much, or he tries to carry too much of the load on himself, and just makes poor decisions. You see that whenever you get 4 interceptions, and I know one of them came late in the game, but still 4. I mean, we had 3 before that one. I mean, like that you can't win football games when you give the ball over that much. It's just that simple. I don't know what it is with him, man. I don't know if his confidence is shot, like if he's just outthinking himself. His facial expressions on the field from the camera, from what you see, don't bode well for a guy who is like going to turn it around. I never got the feeling in that game yesterday watching it. I never got the feeling that he was going to that we were going to hit that, what you talked about a minute ago, hit that home run, whether it be a missed tackle or another QB up the middle. I never got that feeling, which might be indicative of who Nick is as a player. I really do think the world of Nick. I think he's a great quarterback. It just is not transitioning well. My dad and I were joking around about this yesterday because we were both just so watching the game, and we were joking around like maybe it's because like Joe Moorhead is from the north, and people like typically are quick talkers in the north, and maybe like down here these players don't really understand, or we're slower in Mississippi. Just any reason. But then you sit there and listen to Dan Mullen's post-game interviews, and you're like, oh my god, like this guy needs to slow down, dude.
The execution was not there, and the accuracy on the deep balls just didn't happen. And
he has had some hilarious interviews. Like I think during the LSU game this year, they caught him like right behind like the goal line for an interview, and he was talking about like his players buying in, and he was like, I just don't think that like they really understood yet that like this got to be this strain, this like like right here. And he's like pointing towards his 30s, like this. I was like, what the hell is happening?
What is happening? Stop it. So yeah, that rules out that explanation for what's going on. To be honest, I don't know, because a lot of people, to your question, Chandler, I don't know how there's so many conflicting thoughts on him across our fan base. Like a lot of people want to put in Keaton, and then the other half wants to keep him in. I don't. It'll be interesting to see how Coach Moorhead handles it, because right now it's not looking like the old Moorhead hire is a great one.
Well, go ahead.
No, that's it. That was rant over.
I've given this a lot of thought. I mean, I had a decent amount of time in the car today, and so I was kind of thinking. I was thinking about it, because the thing about Nick Fitzgerald before this season, and I think some of this is he was the victim of some hype that he couldn't have ever lived up to.
Sure.
Moorhead coming in and telling him, hey, you need to make sure you clean off a place on your shelf for the Heisman Trophy. Like I'm all for having confidence in your guys, but like.
Yeah, like that's a cool thing to hear as a fan, because you're like, oh man, he's gonna come in, like he's gonna really work. But like Also,
Yeah.
you like run that risk of if it doesn't work out and if it goes exactly how it's gone, then it's like it's kind of an awkward thing to.
Well, but you know,
Weird
I think
flex, you know.
I think that what you're seeing, and I think in some ways, the situation at Mississippi State is pretty similar to the situation at Arkansas, except that State's got a lot more talent. But what you're seeing, and I think that people underestimated, was the change in offensive scheme, because Mullen's scheme at State was so unique because he was so limited in the kind of players that he could get. Right, because you know even though Dak Prescott turned into the best quarterback in State history and all the things that he is, he was still a very lightly recruited athlete, and maybe a lot of people kind of thought he'd be a tight end in college. So Mullen was fairly limited, so he had to build his scheme around guys who were going to have some deficiencies, and he built a great scheme around Fitzgerald. But I can't think of any other scheme short of what Georgia Tech does that would be a good fit for him as a quarterback.
Well, he can throw. That's the thing. He can throw. He did it last year. He's not the greatest thrower. He's no Peyton Manning or any craziness like that. This year, for whatever reason, and there's a lot of blame to go around, it just has not happened. So it makes him more one-dimensional, like you're saying. And I'm all for doing the goddamn triple option, man. I think that's football at its purest, dude. That's what we all need to be looking at every week. Low scoring.
I'm gonna push back on that a little bit because last year he was only a 55% passer. And so that's adequate, but it's still not good. And I don't think that you can really. I don't think in this era of college football that you can really win completing 55% of your passes. And this year has been worse. He's 49.
Yeah, this year's worse.
49%. This is going into last week. He was 49%, and that's surely going to be a little bit lower. But I think that the system shift has been so big that it just I think that's ultimately what's killing him. And so I don't like that's not Nick's fault at all. I mean, he's out there, he's trying to. I mean, you can see that. I mean, like the dude hadn't quit, and that's that's always a credit to a player. And I don't think it's necessarily Moorhead's fault because I just don't know that you like when you inherit a roster like that's so specific and tailored to one particular style of play. There's just really nothing you can do.
Yeah. And Moorhead's trying to run plays that are better suited to Nick Fitzgerald's sort of passing playbook, and his offensive line isn't bailing him out at all. It happened several times Saturday night, in which they tried to run wide receiver or tailbacks out into the flats or wide receiver screens, but the ends were rushing up the field and batting down balls. So Mullen called a really good game against LSU, but the difference was the execution by the offensive line, and that they allowed Franks those passing lanes, and that just never opened up for Fitzgerald.
Yeah, all in all, I mean, it's a weird situation, and it's hard. It's hard to kind of see how this season can really be salvaged. Just because the fit's not there. But I do think that Moorhead has proven that he can do some things, and he's got players that fit what he wants to do. And looking at their recruiting class, it certainly seems like he's got a quarterback coming in that can do the stuff that he wants to do next year. So I think it's hard and it's disappointing because a lot of people thought that this was a really talented team, and that it's disappointing. And I mean, if you look at the defense has been really, really good. We'll kind of see. I think with some more prolific offenses, playing some more prolific offenses with Texas A&M and Alabama coming up, you'll kind of see really what their defense is.
This is all I'm saying out here, Steve. All right, we want Bama. What's up? What's up, dogs? What's up? Come on, let's get it. Let's get it.
Oh boy,
Steve.
Man, it's a sad day to be a dog, man. Sad day.
Well, hey, at least you're not an Ole Miss fan,
We're in good company.
Should be a good egg ball.
No, it won't be. It'll be bad.
It won't be.
That's true.
Anyway,
State
okay, so so State mercifully has an off week, as does Ole Miss, and Alabama and LSU as well. So looking ahead to next week, and really, there's not any. I mean, look, there's no point in talking about Alabama on this show because whatever, they're beating everybody by like 1,000 points. And,
can we just say? Wait, can we just pause for a moment? For a moment of silence and the lack of parity in the SEC, because I like it. I think football is over. I think that Alabama won football. I think at this point it's as pointless to even watch. Honestly.
Well, okay, let's do this.
Well, real quick before we move on, I know that Drew Lock hasn't had as good of a year as he wanted, but dude showed out Saturday.
Drew,
350 yards, 4 touchdowns. Had himself a day. That game was really weird. Like Missouri jumped out big. Memphis kind of came back and made it close. It was like 21-17 at one point. And then I looked away for literally like 30 minutes and came back, and it was 65-30.
Yeah, it was crazy. I was only kind of following the score, so I didn't see just a ton of it. But hey,
anyway.
Question. So I floated this to the group message. It was pretty early because I wake up at like 2 a.m. every day now. But when you have a little kid, you get like 30 minutes of sleep.
Perfect.
But I think that Alabama fans have become so miserable with winning that they want everybody else to be miserable with winning as well. And
they just want some competition, dude.
My test for that theory is last night. Purdue beat Ohio State, and it was an unbelievable game. I mean, it was just like it was so. I mean, it was so incredible. I mean, the storyline with the Purdue student with bone cancer, like speaking to the team before the game, the locker room, and then just the way that they absolutely manhandled Ohio State. They're there, they're having fun, they're rushing the field or whatever. And I've got all these. I mean, obviously, living in Tuscaloosa. I've got a lot of Alabama friends on Facebook and things like that. And all the statuses of like, oh, I can't believe Purdue says they want Bama. Like, really, like, just, I don't know, just enjoy something for once. Have fun with it. Enjoy it. Like, enjoy it with Purdue.
Because it's going to go away. Like, Alabama used to be really good. And then they had those Shula years and were very bad. And now they're good again. So like college football is cyclical. Like good teams get really good and are dominant, and then they get really bad. Like being a Florida fan, it was a lot of fun during the Spurrier years, and then Zook happened. And while I don't think he's a bad coach by any means, it was kind of a rough couple of years. And then we had Urban Meyer and Tim Tebow, and they were dominant, and that was fun. And then the 2010s happened. And it hasn't been nearly as fun. So yeah, just enjoy it because it's going to end. Hopefully, if Nick Saban breaks his well of life or whatever he has.
Eventually, Batman will find and destroy his Lazarus pit. and then when we unmask Batman, it's going to be Dabo.
My God, that's Dabo's music.
Live from Dabo's Batcave. That's the name for this episode.
Yes.
I'm writing that down so I don't forget it.
Perfect.
So next week, week 9 coming up, we don't look like we particularly have a bunch of exciting games coming up. You've got Vanderbilt and Arkansas. You've got Florida Georgia line. You've got Kentucky versus Missouri. You've got Texas A&M versus Mississippi A&M, and then you've got Tennessee and South Carolina. So I can't remember which games I asked you guys to talk about before. So Keith, just talk about one of the games.
I'm not going to talk about this game, but I'm going to throw this out there. Tennessee and South Carolina could potentially be a very interesting game. But anyway, so we're going to jump to Florida, Georgia.
Right, and just so you guys are aware, this game, like game day, is going to be in Jacksonville at the world's largest non-alcoholic outdoor gathering, and you know that Florida Georgia Line are going to be the guest pickers, right? Like y'all know that's going to happen,
like for sure. And they aren't even going to like pretend that they're not. Like,
wait a minute, what do they sing? I don't even know what they sing.
They sing crap. That's what you need to know.
Imagine a fort going into a garbage disposal.
Okay, that doesn't sound pleasant.
Yep, that's it. It'd be really funny if game day was there and like SEC Today or whatever the heck their college game day ripoff is also there. They'll have a brawl. Kirk Herbstreit versus Tim Tebow. I'm here for it. So Florida, Georgia, world's largest outdoor cocktail party at a TIAA Bank Field in Jacksonville, Florida. Man, this is who honestly, going back to like August 1st, thought that we'd be here now with it. I'm sure that everybody expected Georgia to be undefeated or maybe one loss, and like looking real good, but Florida's here, somehow a top 10 team. Maybe it's from hype, whatever. It's going to be really interesting to see how Georgia bounces back from that LSU game. Florida has a bye week. Both of them do, so they're going to be getting healthy. That Georgia rushing attack against Florida's run defense, which statistically isn't very good. I think at the end of last week they were ranked like 72nd in the country in run defense.
Who's ranked 72nd run defense?
Florida.
Yeah.
They just have a really good scoring defense and a really good secondary, even though they're very, very injured right now. So I imagine that the game plan is just going to be run it a lot for Georgia and try to keep Jake Fromm from dropping back, because we've talked about it. Florida has a super impressive pass rush between CeCe Jefferson, Ja'Kai Polite, and Jabari Zuniga. Three super quick, super powerful guys that come off the edge hard. So, Georgia's got to neutralize that, and in order for that to happen, they have to stay ahead of the sticks. And I think for Florida, it's do what you've been doing. Run the ball often. Any pass plays have to be quick hits, bubble screens, running backs out of the backfield. Franks hasn't been super consistent or accurate going downfield, so let's not give up any chances to get picks there. But like one of the impressive things about Florida that's been talked about the last several weeks is just their ability to kind of hang in there whenever games aren't going their way. Franks has done a really good job of like not panicking, and just kind of keeping a cool head and just going about his business. And so that shows a lot of growth for him. And of course, LaMichael Piron has I think he's officially announced that he's here. In terms of like reaching his potential, because the last couple of weeks he's had just outstanding games. So he's kind of taken over the primary workload from Jordan Scarlett, which isn't a bad thing, because then you get to put in Jordan Scarlett, who's just a bruiser but can also run with the best of them. So It'll be fun. Ultimately, I think Georgia pulls it out. But as the season's gone on, honestly, nothing will surprise me with this game.
Yeah, it's been a wild season so far, but I do think that Jake has proven that he's better at taking insurance phone calls at midnight and wearing khakis than he is at throwing the ball down the field. So I think to me that's the biggest thing to watch in that game is like you said, if Georgia can kind of stay ahead of the sticks and not have to rely on Fromm, and that's where they were so good last year was that they didn't have to rely on Fromm to do too much. Yeah. And so if they can find a way to do that, I think they'll beat Florida. But if they can't, then it's going to be really, really interesting. Okay. So Ro, what do you just give me like a couple of thoughts about that game?
I'd rather talk about Creed opening up for Vanderbilt and Arkansas as they're making a comeback this weekend. I really see Arkansas and the ghost of Darren McFadden making a real powerhouse effort against Vanderbilt. Also look for Rodney Clark on the outside. He's a good shooter. It's also his ghost coming into this game too, and he's actually going to become a new position in football.
Okay.
To be honest,
I don't know.
I didn't listen to what you just said because I was typing an email, and so I had to do that one off the cuff.
Just disrespect the Tide. Unbelievable.
Hey, well done.
It's just pointless to talk about the Tide, man. Like it's just like I don't. Oh man, I don't know. Anyways, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway. Okay. Cool. Well.
That was a really good 2 minutes just then.
Let's talk about talk about the battle of the agricultural mechanical schools.
Agricultural mechanical schools. Another team where Creed is opening up again. I would honestly say that this game this weekend amongst the ag schools, I don't really know what to expect from State. I think Texas A&M is going to win handily.
State's somehow a 3-point favorite in this game right now.
That doesn't make any sense to me. That doesn't make a bit of sense to me. I don't. Is like Texas A&M? Are they bad against the run?
I don't know. I know very little about them.
I really don't know about them. I haven't watched any of their games other than when they played Alabama, and that didn't really tell us much about who Texas A&M is. So
they haven't really faced like a super run-heavy team yet. Granted, I say that State hasn't actually committed to the run except for like 2 games this year. So
yeah, I really don't. This is a toss-up to me because I have no idea how State's going to bounce back. If I look to old State teams, I know how they're going to bounce back, and that they don't. So with this team, I just don't know. I really didn't expect them to bounce back against Auburn after losing those 2 games. And Death Valley, I mean, it really did feel like I didn't feel that watching that game. I just didn't feel like LSU dominated the whole game. It's just the offense could not perform.
Yeah,
they couldn't. And so will they click? Will that click somehow in the weirdest place ever in College Station? I don't know. They're the strangest fan base, the weirdest traditions, the strangest male cheerleaders. I don't understand why they are in the SEC.
Yeah, nothing that's that you said was incorrect.
But we have to go there to play football. And so
that game's in Starkville.
I'm sorry. I said it backwards. Yeah, they have to come to us.
You're still right, but the game is in Starkville.
Yeah, and I really don't know what to expect. Maybe we get it going and win, but it's a toss up to me. I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I don't really know. I don't really know what to make of it. I think that I'm finding out now on ESPN.com that you can get tickets to the Vanderbilt Arkansas game for $2. And there are 1,769 tickets available. So that's not great.
You guys want to go watch a college football game?
Well, Texas A&M Mississippi State's only going to set you back 25.
Dude, so on that note, my brother Tulane is not good at football, and that's where he currently is in law school, and so they get to go to the games. So tickets, if you're a student, tickets are $1.50. If you're a guest, they're $5 every game.
If you're a guest, they pay you.
They pay you to come.
That reminds me of Memphis football a few years ago, that that you could get season tickets to their games for like $100, and like the 5 games that weren't Ole Miss games were like $5 a piece, and the Ole Miss game was like $75.
Golly.
Because that was the only game people came to. But no, I think this is a weird game. I think that I kind of think that I see Texas A&M's defense being pretty similar to LSU's in that they're good side to side, and I think that's what hurt. I think that's what hurt State as much as anything was being able to take away kind of those outside runs. And I see A&M as being pretty good at that, and I see them having a better offense. So, we'll see what State can do to bounce back. But it's a weird game; it's hard to get a read on.
Yeah.
So, looking kind of at the rest of things, I mean, Tennessee, South Carolina's got some potential to be very, very interesting because short of the Alabama game, which again, Alabama's going to do that to everybody. But short of the Alabama game, Tennessee looks like they're gaining a little bit of confidence, and things might be kind of moving in a good direction for them. And South Carolina just hasn't been who we thought they've been, and then who we thought they would be. And then Kentucky and Missouri, I mean, that one's just two diametrically opposite teams.
Yep.
Obviously, Kentucky's strength is running the ball and keeping it on the ground, and Missouri wants to throw it all over the yard. So, we'll see with those games. But with those kind of being in the East, you really don't pay just a ton of attention there. So, I think we can move on to our picks.
Yay.
We are looking at the slate of games. We just talked about them. Keith, if you would get me some spreads queued up, and
I'm already done. I got it.
Gosh, he's already there. That's our Vegas insider right there, having things ready to go. He's at a casino right now, so of course he's ready to go.
Sure.
So
I'm sitting in front of the board right now.
So Keith, what is the spread for Vanderbilt and Arkansas?
Arkansas is a 2.5-point favorite.
Arkansas is a favorite. Wow.
Yeesh.
Joseph, what?
I know that Vandy hasn't been great this year, but they've been giving a lot of teams a lot of fits. So I guess that's progress. But
I mean, they're
I don't know.
3-5 and 0-4 in the SEC.
Yeah, but they only lost to Kentucky by 7. Almost beat Notre Dame. Was beating Florida until halfway through the fourth quarter. They've been right there in a bunch of games.
Yeah. Well, to start us off, Joseph sent me his picks before we started. Joseph's comment was, nobody wins this game. I guess I have to pick Arkansas. Keith, you got?
This is what's in Arkansas. I'm going to go Vandy.
Roe?
I've already made my pick. The ghost of Rodney Clark, as well as Darren McFadden and Houston Nutt, all come back and give Arkansas life again, and they're the true champions of our hearts.
I feel like if Houston Nutt came back, that would guarantee them a loss.
You say that, but
you say that.
Dale Nutt had the old fighting McFaddens in the SEC championship back in 06.
That's right. And the quarterback
won that game, honestly.
That was that could run, but you didn't expect it. I don't remember his name.
Matt Jones.
Matt Jones. There he is.
I think he was before those guys, but yeah, I remember him well. Yeah. I'm gonna go Vanderbilt.
They had Felix Jones too that year.
Oh, that's right.
And Peyton Hillis.
Yeah, and Peyton Hillis. And they didn't run the wishbone. How they didn't run Wildcat every single play is honestly maybe the biggest tragedy in all of college sports.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm going Vanderbilt. I don't know why. Whatever. Next up, we have Country Music Superstars Florida Georgia line Keith, what is the spread for that game?
Georgia is a 6.5-point favorite.
6.5-point favorite. All right. Well, Joseph sent in his prediction. He said Florida is only ranked in the top 10 in order to hype this game. Sorry, Keith. Georgia wins the world's largest toilet bowl party by 2 touchdowns. So, hot take coming in strong. Keith, who you got?
Again, I would not be surprised no matter what happens in this game. Part of me really badly wants to pick Florida just because they performed really well in big games, and Mullen has shown a real penchant for calling really good games in those big ones. So, all that being said, I'm going to go Georgia, but again, it wouldn't surprise me to see Florida win there at all.
Mr. Hunter.
Man, I'm just over here listening to this Georgia-Georgia line, just cruising with these windows down. This is the worst song I've ever heard in my life, by the way. I had to look it up.
They're terrible. They are absolutely terrible.
It's a strange rap country poppy. I don't know. It's odd.
Like a fiddle shows up every once in a while.
Yeah. Maybe you a song, you make me want to roll my windows down. Oh, it's awful. All right. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to pick Georgia on this one just because I think I have more to prove with a little bounce back from their loss to LSU. And I think this is a really exciting time for Florida to know that Florida football's back, baby. But I don't think they're going to get it done. So, yeah, Georgia.
I'm going to be a contrarian. I'd originally picked Georgia, but I'm going to go Florida. I think that Georgia's overrated, and I don't really know why else I'm doing that. But anyway, okay, so next up we have got the Wildcats heading to Missouri, who for some reason is in the Southeastern Conference. Actually, neither one of these teams are in the South or in the East, but that's whatever. We have it.
Technically, Kentucky's behind that Mason-Dixon wall. So, I mean, yeah.
Yes, the Mason-Dixon wall, the notable wall that was built by the Trump administration in 2018.
The Mason-Dixon curtain.
Yes, that is what it is. Keith, give me a spread.
Missouri is a 6.5-point favorite.
Missouri is favored. Wow.
That is odd.
Joseph.
I guess that pass rush.
Joseph said that he's picking Missouri because by principle he cannot predict Kentucky in the second half of the season. Who you got?
I got UK doing the thing.
Bro?
Yeah, I'm going Benny Snell. Snell you later, Missouri.
Yeah, I'm gonna try my best to take a Snellfie with a Wildcat after the game, and I think Kentucky's
maybe hit up a Snelf cone after.
Yeah, I don't know what a self cone is, but
maybe we could do a bunch of lines of Snelf later.
Not totally sure the pun you're making there. But yeah, sure. We can talk about that later. Keith, Aggies versus Aggies. What's the spread?
Oh man! In the battle of agriculture and mechanics, the bots are taking over. State's a 3.5 or a 3-point favorite.
All right. Joseph said that A&M is overrated. State is being punked by their coach. Top defense in the country shuts down Travion, and MSU somehow wins in a game that includes 8 field goals. I love his specificity in all of this. Keith, who you
got? I'm going TAMU to come in and take care of business.
Bro?
Can't pick against my dogs, man. I can't do it. I'm picking State reluctantly.
I understand the feeling. I'm going to go with Texas A&M because I think that Texas A&M is very similar to LSU on defense, but on offense, they're a little bit more explosive. But I don't feel great about it. So, finally, we have The fighting Jeremy Pruitt. Actually, this is probably the game featuring the two head coaches in the SEC that you would least want to fight. Ed Ogeron may work his way into.
Wait a minute.
This here.
No. Ed Orgeron's there. So like at the state game, it was raining, right? Like a lot.
Yeah. Yep.
The camera cuts to Orgeron, and it's pouring down rain, and he's got a water bottle and is squirting it in his face. Viciously.
I was fixing to ask if you guys saw that.
And like snarling. he is a real life junkyard dog, and it's amazing.
Somebody on Twitter said that's how he drinks his coffee too.
Boiling hot.
So we'll say two of the three coaches you would least want to fight.
Oh man, that was like what perfect timing. Like someone sitting in the truck and goes, "Oh my God, go to camera 4."
Why have we not set up a fighting tournament on our show about
brackets with all the college coaches who would win in a fist fight?
Yes,
that's going to be our season finale, and we're going to go ahead and schedule that.
Yeah, I think we need to do that most certainly. Golly.
I'm down right now.
Absolutely.
Somebody needs to get WWE 2K19 and let's create all the coaches.
Yes, absolutely. And let them go at it.
That would be awesome.
Oh my gosh.
Keith, what's the spread on that game?
There is no spread. I think Vegas stopped caring about Tennessee like 2 weeks ago.
I wonder if there was some sort of injury or something there. There probably is. The South Carolina's starting quarterback is questionable. So Joseph says he's picking Tennessee because South Carolina has hurt him too badly and they're not on speaking terms. Keith, who you got?
Reluctantly, I'm going to go South Carolina at home.
Okay, Ro, what about you?
All right. So the year was 1999.
Oh my God.
My dad took me and my brother to go watch South Carolina play Mississippi State, who was then ranked at like number 19 or something in the country. Mm-hmm. It was right before we were about to go to the SEC Championship. So it might have been 98. So anyways, we get up there to South Carolina, Columbia, beautiful campus, beautiful town, absolutely phenomenal.
Wait, did
South
you actually
Carolina.
look at the town or the campus?
I don't remember. I would have been like probably 10 years old at the time, or maybe 11.
It's not a beautiful town.
I'm just trying to be complimentary because what we experienced in the game was some of the most horrific fans of all time. On top of that, every single time they score or do anything, maybe they do this now, maybe they don't. Every time they do anything, literal grown men in the stands, rooster calls into the sky like the movie Hook. All right. Over and over and over and over again.
Sports are so weird.
I will never pick South Carolina in any sport ever based upon that one experience. I'm going Tennessee for no rhyme or reason other than that.
Yeah, as much as I dog them, I'm going to pick Tennessee. I don't like it, but I'm just not impressed with South Carolina this year. I think Tennessee gets a big win. When we went a few years ago when to that debacle of a game when Ole Miss was like number 4 and went to South Carolina and lost, and and they didn't do the rooster. They did the rooster thing. They played Sandstorm like nonstop.
Yes.
You're like da 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 da.
Yes.
Da 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 da.
That's their opening thing of like everyone's jumping around, and they straight up stole it from Wisconsin's House of Fame. Yeah. They're like, we should do that, but we can't do the exact same things. They're like, what's the most cliche sports song ever? Sandstorm. Let's jump around to that.
Yeah, it was crazy.
I am changing my pick to Tennessee because I forgot. I forgot. Even though I just mentioned it, Tennessee beat Auburn. So, and South Carolina and Auburn are basically the exact same thing. So
yeah, basically. All right, so we have got for our talking about the Noles, picking the Noles. Clemson goes to Tallahassee. Do you have a spread, Mr. Harkins?
Ooh, give me 10 seconds. Somebody riff real quick.
I've got a really
Anyway, Clemson's a 14.5-point favorite.
I was just gonna say I've got a really good looking golden retriever. His hair color is just so it's so light and flowy, and it just looks great. And I was thinking like if there was like one of these schools that had like a female dog that went to get the tee off the field after kickoff, like we could just get them together and see what happens.
Like those like tennis ball runners.
Yeah. So Joseph said that he's picking Clemson and that he's still predicted the Florida State season correctly for some stupid reason. And, another thing that I would predict correctly is how great that my dog and this theoretical dog would get together. It'd just be wonderful. I think they go great together. So Keith, who are you taking in that game?
Clemson for sure. Right? Like,
yeah, no, for sure. Like just for sure, like my dog and this lab would just go so well together. And we just got to, whoever the handlers of this imaginary dog are, got to get them together. Ro, who are you picking?
Bro, I'm picking your dog up from your house and I'm rescuing it from you because I like this. It's just so creepy.
I am I've gone ahead and written Ro down as picking Chandler's dog.
Is that locked? Is that locked
in? Yep, it's locked in. I'm not changing it. I am locking the spreadsheet.
Keith, do you know what we're talking about? What Chandler, what he's referencing?
No, not at all.
Yeah. So during the was it the Boise State game Saturday night?
Yes, Boise State game. So creepy, dude.
They have a lab that like goes and gets the and stuff, and the announcer was just talking about.
I didn't watch it.
Yeah, he was just talking about how he wanted to get his dog together with this other dog.
and wouldn't let it go. He did for 20 minutes.
The other announcers were doing everything they could to get him to stop talking about it.
Sounds a lot like
he wouldn't.
It sounds a lot like when Brent Musburger just wouldn't stop talking about AJ McCarron's girlfriend.
Yeah, but it's different because she was at least like an objectively attractive young woman,
right? And like a human being. Yeah.
Yes.
Like this, it's just talking about like breeding dogs.
Yeah, dude, he's talking about to get the dogs mating. It's like, it's just weird, man. Like, stop. I don't want to talk about this with you.
Sometimes you get passionate about stuff and you got to talk about it.
Get really into it, Yeah.
Anyway,
so who are you picking for real?
I'm going Clemson. Clemson, yeah, of course.
Yeah, I'm going Clemson as well.
Chandler's dog.
And then, Ro, what's our random selection of the game?
Dude, random selection of the game. Tuesday night starts this tradition in America called the World Series. It's the Boston Red Sox versus the LA Dodgers. I don't know anything about baseball. I don't even know why I'm talking like this. I don't watch baseball. I haven't watched baseball in a long time. I quit playing whenever they got fast pitch and I got beamed in the head and I was like, I'm done with this sport. I have not kept up with baseball. I used to be an Atlanta Braves fan when I was like 10. I know I watched Boston break the curse back in 2000 and whatever, and that's about the last time I watched baseball. So
2004, I believe.
Yeah,
sure.
04, yeah.
I'll take your word for it. And then a goat came on the field and something happened. I don't know. I don't know anything about these stupid legends. So it's October.
I believe you're thinking about Chicago in like 1900.
Yeah, and the goat has
Yeah, absolutely.
Curse the goat.
Yeah, and Babe Ruth, he points to home. He does the home runs. I don't know.
He does.
Don't explain it to me. I'm not going to listen. Game 1, Dodgers Red Sox Tuesday. I think it's in Boston. Maybe, I don't know.
Who cares?
Who cares? Go ahead, pick them. Pick them.
This is a good segue into Chandler and I's baseball podcast that we host every night for 4 hours.
It's about next season, which has already started. Baseball is the worst. I don't know. Like, do we really need another LA Boston championship series?
Of course. The drama, man. The drama, dude.
Stab me in the throat.
The athletics, the prowess, the competition.
I don't know. If it'll get you to shut up, I'll pick Boston.
I can't stop laughing at Ed Orgeron drinking water while like it's an actual monsoon. And he's giving us just like a Gatorade shot.
Just pick so we can mercifully end this.
I can't see the screen. Oh my god. Do we just want to all pick the Sox or what?
Yeah, I'm picking the Red Sox. Why would I pick the Dodgers?
Picking
I
the
don't know anything
Sox.
about Daryl Strawberry.
Picking the Sox and Dunkin' Donuts, bro.
Yo.
Oh, I forgot about Dunkin' Donuts. Dunkin' Donuts are terrible. Give me the Dodgers.
Oh. Don't do that to Beantown, there, pal.
Beantown is terrible.
Oh.
I much prefer the version of Beantown that exists in Fallout 4, which has been decimated by a nuclear bomb.
Oh man!
And I've muted Chandler because I can.
And I've unmuted myself because I also can.
back. This is ridiculous.
Got him.
All right. Well, whatever. This has been running out the clock. We have run completely off the rails. Big shout out to everybody who listened. Thanks for tuning in. And
Ed Orgeron 2020.
Stay tuned because Young Sheldon is next. Good night.